I'm Matt Christopher. I'm the Magisterial District Judge in District Court 11301, which is based in Shikshini. It covers 9 townships, 3 boroughs. It is the largest geographically in all of Luzerne County. What was the rest of your question?
Well, tell us, why you're running, or
Sure.
what your experience is.
Understood. Okay. Well, I've been in office now. It's a little over 5 years. I took office in January of 2018. I was approached by somebody in the community to actually take the position when they heard my predecessor was retiring. So some folks in the community, I guess, had the opinion that they thought I was somebody who was well respected in the community, trustworthy in the community, did a lot of community service, things of that nature. So I was approached about the position when it became available. Did some research in it. Thought it was the right choice. Thought it was something that would allow me to better serve. And been in the position ever since.
What was your background before?
So I ran the PNC Bank in Mackinac for about 12 years, give or take.
Okay. And are you working outside of the magistrate's office now at all? Or?
No. This is my full-time job.
So I assume you did the training that is required before taking the job?
Absolutely. I went through the, it's a very rigorous program, as you probably know. It's a month-long training course with a very intense test that goes on afterward. It's a multi-part test. After 4 years of college, this is by far the most intense educational experience I've ever had, as far as not just the amount of information to learn, but the application of it, and also the sheer compression of the data. So did that, passed that, and in addition to that, I've been going forward with all the continuing education curriculum and everything that goes along with that.
Okay. Seeing as you came to this from a banking background, what surprised you about the job, or what did you expect, and how was that different from once you were in the seat?
One of the first cases I got was a truancy case, and it's standard with my position. It's something that we do all the time, etc. But I kind of went into the hearing with sort of a preconceived notion, if you will. I sort of expected I was going to see a young man who just felt like he had a little bit of attitude, knew how the world worked already. This, you can't make me go to school, sort of that kind of demeanor. We had the hearing, we had a couple of things, and then we just sort of got into a little bit of a conversational discourse. And when I asked him, straight up, what was the reason that he didn't want to go to school, he said something to the effect that I don't want to go to school because I'm worried if I go to school, my older sister will kill herself. And that was a very illuminating experience for me. I really thought that some kids could have an opportunity to be kids, and but to see that sort of thing happening and to understand and see the shift from what I thought and what I expected to realize the gravity of some of the circumstances that some folks are going through, it gave me some real perspective, and I'm glad it was one of the first cases I had, and it impacts me still. It was a very good lesson for me to learn. I'm glad I learned it sooner rather than later.
We've recently done some reporting on the juvenile justice system. I don't know if you saw the story, but it was an interview with the district attorney and some other people in law enforcement who felt that perhaps our juvenile justice system in the reforms after Kids for Cash has perhaps gone too far. There's too much leniency. There's not enough spaces to incarcerate offenders, as someone who deals with juvenile cases, on some level, I mean, what is your take on where that system is
Well,
from
I
your
mean,
perspective?
As you said, the cases that I see at my level don't necessarily impact to that degree. Again, I deal with truancy, as you said, traffic violations, non-traffic violations. When they get more significantly into the criminal system, unless the juvenile is being handled essentially as an adult, it's a little different. It's something over which I don't have full jurisdiction.
Well, what's the bulk of the kind of cases that you hear?
The vast majority of what we do, we handled about 15,000. We had a little over 15,000 cases docketed in my 5+ years tenure. The vast majority of those are traffic violations. Certainly we do some non-traffic violations are in there. Disorderly conduct, public drunkenness, harassment, things of that nature. A significantly smaller sliver is landlord-tenant cases, truancy, and criminal cases are less than 6% of our full docket load.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before the interview here about Central Court.
Sure.
And you could just give us a summary as to how that works. And I guess before Central Court was implemented, the local magistrates had more criminal cases.
So,
just explain how the Central Court process works.
So the central court system that we have was implemented prior to my coming on board. So central court and that system is the system that's been in place again since I came in January of 2018. But the quick version is the vast majority of criminal systems, and there's some in the southern tier with the Hazleton area that get held separately, but the vast majority of the criminal cases essentially all go through the central court system. They're all held in one specific building, so all the representatives from the public defender's office, all the defendants, etc., officers are all housed in one location, and then we as individual judges essentially take turns doing that, overseeing the proceedings at of the preliminary hearings. My particular court is one that has, while it's large geographically, it doesn't necessarily have the largest caseload. So it's kind of an opportunity for someone like myself to sort of take some of the burden off of a court that is maybe a little more inundated and kind of allows for a little bit more level playing field.
And you were explaining earlier that this rotation that you do this twice a month.
There's 16 magisterial district judges, so 2 judges per day, 4 days a week. If Fridays are necessary, based on caseload or specific circumstances, security issues, etc., those get added on. But yeah.
And with regard to the caseload you have when you're, at your local jurisdiction, you said most are traffic cases. How many would you say are truancy cases and, I don't know, other, like a small claims type
Civil cases. I wish I'd known to prepare the actual.
Can you just give ballpark it?
I would guess 65 to 70% would probably be traffic. Again, that's a guess. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm happy to get them for you if you need them. Non-traffic cases, 5%. Criminals, between 5 and 6%. The vast majority of those are DUIs. Civils, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Little landlord tenants.
How many of your truancy matters? How many often do you do truancy?
I mean, we probably do. I mean, it's not significant for us. We only have we don't have as many school districts as some of the larger courts do. So, I mean, probably 30 to 50 cases a year. Educated guess. Like I said,
some of the district judges, they'll have like a truancy court in the schools. Do you ever do anything like that?
We have in the past. I had a discussion with the folks at the Northwest School District, and the impression that both of us had was having it in my court was actually a better process. I think it better instilled the seriousness of the matter with the kids and the parents and the consequences of moving forward with those sort of things. I mean, one of the nice things about truancy is it's not really about the penalties and the repercussions or any of those sort of things. It's about getting the kids back to school and what are the issues, what are the circumstances, what are the underlying concerns that can be addressed. Can we address them here? Is it a transportation issue? Are there mental health issues? Are there substance abuse issues? Are there any other things where we can sort of get the resources that the county has more involved to overcome them to get the kids back on track and back in school? And again, finding them, that is the lowest priority by far. That has no bearing. It's fixing the problem.
How do you handle repeat offenders?
We do have a higher court system where they potentially can be referred to truancy court, and Judge Rogers and her are in the family court system, which can certainly move them in a little more significant circumstances, I guess you could say. I'll certainly defer to her to explain what she does there better than I could.
So you have a largely rural district?
Yes.
Yeah. I know there are a lot of townships that now lack their own police departments.
So,
is that true in your area?
So in my area, the vast majority of our coverage is through state police. PSP Shikshini covers the vast majority of my area. Salem Township has their own full-time department. Escapec has a part-time department. But again, everything else falls to the state police.
And how does that system work to your experience? Do you think it provides adequate coverage?
I mean, the state police have the geography that they have to have with the resources that they have in place. As you said, it's a very rural area. Some areas are a little farther outlying than others, but I think the state police do a pretty good job, with what they have to work with the geography such as it is. I mean,
The district judges sometimes will use the services of constables.
Sure.
How do you go about, what's your process and how often do you use constables?
Constables, we use constables for serving warrants. So if there's a warrant outstanding, somebody doesn't respond to a traffic violation, or non-traffic violation for that matter. So we hire the constable to try and get a response from them. We need a plea of guilty, not guilty, so we can move forward with the case. If there's not payment of fines, again, constables can get involved in that proceeding. Also for civil matters, to make sure there's proper service for landlord-tenant matters, especially that's where it's probably the most impactful. Make sure that the tenants are properly served, have an understanding of the process, so they can move forward with that.
Mm-hmm. And how frequently do you use constables?
Daily.
Yeah. So it's pretty frequent. And then from what I understand, you don't necessarily have to use the constables that are elected within your district. You can use just about any constable that you want. What is your process on determining which constable you want to use?
We had a constable that worked for us for about 5 years. Unfortunately, he started having some health issues as time went on, and at the end of the year, he couldn't do it anymore, chose not to, referred us to a young man, gave him a little bit of the training that he needed, had partnered with him previously, and he's been working for us for the last 4 months, and it's been working out just fine.
Yeah. So you just use one constable?
For our office, we do.
Yeah.
There are other offices that use multiples. For our office, one's sufficient.
Mm-hmm. And which township is he from?
He lives in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
Mr. Christopher, Bob Kalinowski, sorry I was late.
Hi.
My question is about transparency, and let me ask you this. Do you have the same staff as the previous magistrate,
Yes.
Mr. Hasse?
Yeah.
just being objective, they were the most difficult people to deal with out of all the magistrates, at least in my experience. Will you commit yourself to transparency, will you commit yourself to transparency if you're elected again? Meaning, give us your cell phone number, be available on the weekends.
I didn't know I wasn't available on the
I'm not saying you're not. I just know the last magistrate, they were very difficult to deal with. So.
You have my cell phone number.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you before we leave.
That's all I ask. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Yes, so you're finishing your first term. Have you implemented any changes or innovations at your office?
I don't know that I have. Certainly I'm a little more engaged with the computer system. I do a little bit more as far as, I know we were talking about warrants a little bit earlier. Whenever someone's coming into my court for a traffic violation, I'm running their information through statewide databases prior to them coming to help see if they have any outstanding warrants. If they do have any outstanding warrants, I get the information ahead of time so I can make them aware of them. If it's if it's just relating to taking care of fines that are outstanding. If there are pleas that are missing, I'll reach out to the other judges in the area as well as Columbia County and any other counties for that matter, so I can have the information so when they come in, I can show them what they have, get their pleas forwarded to the proper court to move things through the system, make sure that their information is current, addresses, phone numbers, things of that nature. A lot of that happens, unfortunately, for things as simple as somebody moving and not updating their information through the proper, systems through PennDOT and whatnot. So it can often be a pretty easy fix if you give it a little effort.
And regarding your background, you said you worked for PNC Bank.
Yeah, I was a branch manager there in Mount Conroe, like I said, about 12 years, somewhere in that vicinity.
Did you, where do you live now, and how long have you lived there? Did you actually grow up in the district?
I live in Nescopec now. I've been there, it'll be 4 years in November. No, I grew up in the Lehigh Valley, Northampton High School. Came here about 25 years ago, loved the area, loved the geography, loved the people, loved the space. Decided to make it my home.
I asked this to all the magistrate candidates. What's your philosophy on bail? That's a pretty open question, but I'd like to know.
Sure. Well, I mean, the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth are pretty clear on the way bail works and what the expectations are as far as having an understanding of the defendant's specific situation, as far as the seriousness of the charges, ties to the area, employment, things of that nature. Also, the Constitution and the statutes are pretty clear on offenses should be bailable. So as long as there aren't any outstanding circumstances that are going to negatively impact the safety of specific individuals, the safety of the community at large, you generally look to do bail. And bail is designed to be from least restrictive to most restrictive. So you kind of go through your sort of mental checklist of, is ROR appropriate? Okay, well, if releasing someone on their own recognizance is appropriate, well then that's what you do. If unsecured bail with some specific conditions is appropriate, you go to there. If monetary bail is appropriate, you go to there. If significant monetary bail is appropriate, you go to there. If there's no circumstance where that is possible, then you deny bail.
I guess you guys have other questions.
Yeah, well, we got a head start on it, so go ahead.
Basically, general question. Last time it was a very competitive race with a bunch of people. You came out on top on both tickets.
Sure.
Now you're one-on-one with the person that came in second.
Sure.
On both tickets. How do you win this race?
I feel very, very good about the experience I have. I feel very good about the education I have. I feel very good about my community service record. I'm very proud of all the things I've done in my community. I'm very proud of the affiliation I have with my local Masons Lodge and being the chaplain there and helping out with the blood drives and helping out with the other various organizations, the Susquehanna 5 Trail when they have their 5K, helping out Sweet Valley when they have their carnival. I'm very happy about the fact that I'm a platelet donor who's been doing that for 11 years, trying to help people who are fighting cancer. I think, like I say, the experience I'm bringing to the table, the education qualifications that I have, and the love of my community that I literally demonstrate every day, I think those are things that differentiate myself from my competitor.
How much money do you expect to spend on your campaign?
We have a campaign committee, and there's a chairman and treasurer for that committee, so I better serve to defer to them. I mean, if you want me to guess, I guess I could. 12, maybe 15,000, guessing.
Have you had any fundraising
Yeah.
events?
My committee has, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any guidelines on ethical standards on who you receive campaign contributions from?
Oh, the Commonwealth is very clear on that. There are very specific rules regarding the laws of finance, absolutely.
Then what are those? Do they prohibit people from giving you contributions if they have cases in front of you? Or?
Again, I don't have the rules in front of me, but whenever somebody contributes to your campaign, they need to, if it's a certain dollar amount, it can only be cash up to a certain dollar amount. If it's beyond that dollar amount, it has to be by check. You can't get from corporations, things of that nature, or LLCs. It's only from private individuals. You need to record their name, their address. In certain situations, you need to record their employment information, things like that. But they're pretty clearly written out in the rules for the state.